Hello everyone and welcome to another collections showcase. Now I've actually got a bit of a backlog of prototypes to show you because some of you may know before Christmas I received a package of pieces from China which contained at least one interesting prototype, but I've actually had these on my shelves for a while and I've been meaning to do a video on them, so I'm going to start off with doing these because I thought I would group this into a video about Cybermen prototypes. So we have here, I'm going to go over each of them individually, but we have here an underhenge Cyberman, two closing time Cybermen, and a Tomb Cyber Controller. And it's the Tomb Cyber Controller that we're going to start with. So here is the Cyber Controller. Now most of you will think, well, this just looks like a standard one, which it does overall. There really isn't a huge amount on this that makes it obvious it's a prototype. So for that we have to get a close-up of the head sculpt. So here on screen we have the prototype one here on the left, and we have the official original release. This isn't the recent B&M release, this is the original collect and build release on the right. And you can see that the actual release on the right, the dome, is orange and has its veins painted on the outside. And I don't know how easily this is going to come up on camera, but if you look carefully enough on this one, you can see that the veins are actually painted on the inside of the head rather than on the dome. And this is one of the sort of noticeable things that stands this out as a prototype, is the fact that it's got that. Other than that, if you didn't notice that, you wouldn't notice the difference. So it is certainly something that I genuinely wouldn't have noticed unless someone had pointed it out to me. And it's also worth pointing out as well, actually, if we look at stand them side by side, you can see that the official one is actually ever so slightly taller in build than the prototype one. I think it's because from looking at it, I think it's their boots are slightly, the prototype's boots are slightly shorter than the official ones, than the released versions. But it's a fantastic one to have because obviously, as some of you will know, I've already got a test shot Cyber Controller in my collection. I've also got the B&M version. I've got a custom one I made many years back when I never thought I would get the original. Obviously now I've got the original, as you can see here on screen, but I've now also got the prototype. So this is a lovely piece to have for my collection because it sort of completes something which is sort of a set, if you like, of things that I've got. So it's certainly something that was nice to be able to grab for my collection, and certainly again something which, unless somebody had pointed out to me the differences between these two, I probably wouldn't have noticed. I would have seen this online and thought it was just the standard one. So to have it actually verified as a prototype is a lovely thing, especially as it goes along with the rest of my collection. So here is the underhenge Cybermen. Now on the left is the prototype, on the right is an official one, and you can already see a main difference of this. Now this one I actually got after the fantastic 7th Who Nots told me about seemingly this prototype version of a underhenge Cyberman, which appeared to be a Pandorica Cyberman with the damage to its head and chest, but painted in the underhenge style. He ordered one, I ordered one. Now he ended up actually getting the standard one, but I got this version, which obviously the first immediate noticeable difference is the different colours. Now I have asked around about this one, and it may or may not be real. The bottom line is it's unlikely, that's the sad truth, but there is a possibility that it could be that it was done as a kind of test piece variant of a sort of different colouring or something like that. So it is unfortunately a discrepancy, but there is a possibility that it's real. There's not really a huge amount of difference overall on this that you can see compared to the proper one. The main noticeable difference to this is actually something I can't get on camera because it's the feel of it. And this one, it has a much more stone effect feel to it. And I think if you do look carefully enough, you can just about see how it is a bit more grainy in texture. Obviously this one has got like the paint, the sand chip actually in the paint. This one's got a few of those, but it's mainly actually just a sort of stone texture, which is certainly very interesting. It would have been very interesting to see, and it's interesting as well how it actually, at least to me, I think it actually appears closer to what's on screen. So like I said, according to official channels that I've asked, or people that officially are sort of in the know about these things, it probably isn't a prototype, so that is probably the one in this video which doesn't seem to be real, but there is a possibility that it could be, so it's certainly an interesting one. It's a nice one to have in my collection, even if it turns out later on to be not genuine, verified to be not genuine. I still like it, it's still brilliant, and I really love the stone effect texture it's got, because it certainly is something which would have been brilliant, to see. Obviously my first thought about this was that perhaps it had just been repainted as well, so it's worth pointing out that things like, for example, on the knee joint here, you can see that it's got like a specific bit of black of the underside of the figure. But if we actually look on the official one, this one also has bits where the black undercoat shows through, that does show through on the sides of it. So, you know, it's difficult to verify that as to whether it's been repainted when the official one also has the same sort of paint style application. So yeah, it's an interesting one. There's not a huge amount to say about this, but it is certainly one that I wasn't expecting to come across, one that I definitely wanted to show off to you all, because like I said, it could be real, probably isn't, but if it could be real, that is good enough for me. It's good enough for my collection because it's not something I've ever seen before. And lastly, here we have the two Closing Time Cybermen. Now, I actually got these as part of a job lot. As some of you will know, I recently acquired a whole set of the Closing Time Cybermen because there's several different variants. So I just bought a whole job lot of them to get it, and I found these two in there. Didn't think a whole lot of it until I actually got the whole collection together, and I looked at these and I realised that these are strikingly different in several ways to the official, the actual boxed released ones. And I have here, here is the chest damage release, and here is the face damage release. That's what these two are. And already, again, on screen, you can see a noticeable colour difference. These two in the middle are a much more striking and brighter silver than the standard release ones. So that was the first thing that jumped out at me, was that they are a very different colour. But I'm going to put a picture up on screen, because after looking on the back of the box of one of the official ones, because I got a load boxed as well, I noticed that these two Cybermen appear as promo images on the back, in which they appear a much brighter silver and have a much more sort of different, slightly dirty detailing, which these ones also certainly seem to have. So I doubt these are the ones that are actually on the back of the box, because it does appear that some of the detailing on them is slightly different in terms of it's slightly darker in colour, and around some of the edges the detailing looks different. But there are some very noticeable differences between the standard ones, as you can see on screen, and these two in the middle. So it's possible, from what I've found out, that these were, again, early test shots perhaps, where they were sort of dirtied up and things like that, which were then not used or released, but they were used for promo images. So from what I can see, there's no reason to believe that these aren't genuine. They certainly appear to be genuine. Again, I wouldn't necessarily class them as prototypes. I would say they are certainly more first shot or test pieces, but the fact that they're on the back of the official box just sort of, for me, lends enough credence and shows that they are potentially something that wasn't released to the public. And again, as you can see, they have a distinct difference between the actual released version. So it's certainly something that's brilliant to have in my collection as these. Again, it's just one of these things, you never know what you're going to find in a job lot, so it's always worth buying them, which is another point I will raise in the next video when I go through some 375 prototypes I've acquired, again through a job lot. But that brings to a close the end of another collection showcase. As always, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Like, favorite, subscribe, share, it really helps me out a lot. Be sure to go to the description below for a link to my Patreon. I'm doing my very first figure animation, and you can get involved. There's exclusive content and rewards for those who do so, and funding my Patreon in any way gets your name at the end of my videos. I salute you all, and I will see you with another video very soon.